Hello and welcome back to another video. Today is Wednesday, April 4th. Today I'm going to be discussing labels and mental illness. I know it is a very controversial topic, but please keep in mind that these are just my opinions. My original viewpoint on labels, which I guess was about a year ago when it was more of a popular, that was talked about more, that labels aren't bad, and I didn't really understand why everybody thought that they were. One argument is that categorizing is actually a good thing for informational purposes, like for example, referencing the Dictionary of Psychology or Psychological Disorders, the DSM-5, also known as the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders, which essentially just gives like literally the diagnostic material, like what you need to have and the symptoms and like the behavior you would be showing to be diagnosed with a disorder, which is kind of important, you know, so you can know what's going on with you. Like for me personally, this might just be, again, because I have OCPD. I like to have answers and know what's happening and have a reason for why I'm acting differently or feeling differently. Like if you know what disorder you have, you can treat it properly. When I was first diagnosed with OCPD, I was actually excited that I had the diagnosis because it meant that I could research about it and learn more about it, which is kind of ironic seeing that it is OCPD. It tends to be more focused on organization, obsessions, and perfectionism. You know the whole quote, like, "You are not your mental illness"? My view on that was like, well, you kind of are, because you literally like don't understand any other way to live than what you have inside your brain. Like it doesn't have to be a bad thing, but like it is a part of you. Because for example, like without my anxiety, I know I would be a completely different person. Like I just identify so closely with it. Like it literally shapes everything I do. For example, like I am interested in psychology because of it, and I started my YouTube channel because of it. I wouldn't have the friends that I do if it wasn't for my anxiety. I'm not saying that it's a good thing, but I'm saying that it literally does shape all aspects of my life. If you watch Grey's Anatomy, I don't know if you do or not, but spoiler for the current season that's going on, like episode 3 or something, I think. The character Amelia had a brain tumor and it was removed, and she felt like she wasn't the same person without it because it had been with her for so long. Like she became more impulsive, obsessive, I guess. There were just like a few ways that it like changed her as a person. So then when it was removed, she wasn't sure how to react or like to what extent she would go to anymore, and didn't really feel like she could be a doctor, which is an extreme, but definitely still how I feel about the same thing. Like she's not her brain tumor, but it was a part of her for so long that it started to affect her. What the phrase probably means though is that like it doesn't define you as a part of your like personality, like it's not the person you are, and it doesn't have to affect you in a bad way. Although my perspective on this did kind of change when I was diagnosed with OCPD, because it's a personality disorder, which means like it's in the title that it literally like targets who you are as a person, because your personality like identifies who you are on the inside. And yes, it might be a part of the personality. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing necessarily either though, because there are some perks to having OCPD. You have a stronger like work ethic, usually more perfectionistic. Also though, more of like a neutral way to look at it is that it can be dangerous if you use your mental illness like as an excuse for your behavior because you supposedly like can't help it, which is partly true. Like it's an illness, it's problematic. If you're like, oh, I'm insane, haha, so that means I can kill people. Like just because you're psychotic doesn't mean that you're allowed to kill people. And also just because you have a mental illness and you're labeled that way, or labeled with a mental illness, first of all, it doesn't mean that you can't recover or get better from it. And you can like grow and move on and cope with it and live with it in your life. So like it doesn't have to stop you. It doesn't have to be all that you are. You can have more than one label. So like I get the meaning behind the quote. I'm not sure how much I agree with it still though, because like I do think it's a vital part of you, but it just depends how you look at it. Like most of the time when people ask like pick 5 traits that define you, it's not my anxiety and depression, which is like understandable obviously because you're a person. I did watch a video by one of my favorite YouTubers the channel How Senseless Death, How Precious Life. Her name is Anna, and she said that she doesn't feel like she needs the label of depression anymore. I'll try to find the video and link it below in the description. But to summarize, I think she was basically saying that like when she was diagnosed with, it was where she like needed an explanation for what was going on in her life, and she was at a really low place and she just needed to like kind of figure it out, which is sort of what I talked about in my first point. But then she feels like she's kind of like now especially recovered from depression more so, and she just doesn't identify with having depression anymore, which like makes sense because you can like move on and like be someone else because people change over time. So obviously like things that have affected you won't always affect you. So it is definitely a personal choice, like what you want to label yourself as. Even if you have it and have been diagnosed with it, it doesn't mean you have to make it a like vital element in your life. Also though, I just thought about this right now, but labels can be used as derogatory terms, which I know is probably why some people don't like it. Like, oh, she's crazy, you know, because like you have anxiety or whatever. And fun fact, it used to be known as neuroticism, which is irrational and excessive anxiety. But neuroticism is also associated with crazy because back in the day, yes, I have a marker in my hand because I'm trying to make the thumbnail for this video. Like mentally ill people weren't treated well. You know, there's a whole thing with the hospitals, like the mental hospitals, treating people really poorly and just like they weren't human in a way, being burned at the stake because they thought people were demonized and possessed. It makes sense to have a history of why labels are a bad thing, but I feel like they don't have to be. Like, for example, in the gay community, people are taking the word fag back, and, like, they can label it as that because, like, if they're gay, then, you know, it's, like, their term. So if it's your term, I feel like you can use it how you want to. I hope this opened up some more perspectives for you, possibly. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. Bye!